In today's video, we find out why playing hide and seek with guns is a really, really bad idea.
Hi everyone, welcome to today's badge cam lesson here at Active Self Protection, where every day we post a real life use of force caught on camera so that your training and your practice can be more evidence-based as a defender. I'm your host, John Correa.
I'm your co-host, Mike Williver. Today's video comes to us from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
Palm pepper spray is next generation OC spray. It's hot at 1.4% major capsaicinoids, and its modular design means you can customize it exactly to you. 3 different setups, lots of different color combinations. You can make it exactly as you like. And the flip top safety prevents accidental discharges. It's 10 to 12 foot range and 25 half-second blasts. Make sure that you can keep that long range eye poke at long range. I trust Palm OC and I recommend it for everyone for self-defense. Officers are here looking for a man with a felony warrant. They have heard he is staying in this trailer. The owner of that trailer has told them that he has left and has given them permission to search that trailer. And so they have consent to go in. They're going to, let's listen in. We have 3 different badge cams.
She told us to go in. It's her trailer. Sammy! This is the police department. If you're in here, you need to make yourself known. Alright. I don't think so. Sammy! Hey. Alright, yeah, we're clearing the trailer. Look at that. You see that, right?
What? The bag?
Is that a bag or is that a vest? That's a vest.
Oh, okay.
Huh?
You clear this?
While searching the trailer, officers lifted a mattress that covered a storage area. When the mattress was lifted, officers saw suspect Johnson hiding in the storage area armed with a pistol. He aimed the pistol at the officers, which resulted in an exchange of gunfire.
Good. Shots fired, shots fired.
Come out with your hands up!
Come out with your hands up.
Come out with your hands up!
Come out with your hands up. Out there when we do this. Good. Shots fired.
All units 1033.
Come out with your hands up!
Come out with your hands up.
Come out with your hands up!
Come out with your hands up. Cody, you got cover out there when we do this?
Get out! Gun! Shots fired! Come out with your hands up!
Come out with your hands up.
Come out with your hands up!
Come out with your hands up.
I'm hit. We're stuck inside the trailer. I'm hit in the face.
Stay off here and just go.
We gotta get out.
Timothy? You need to come out with your hands up! Back out of the trailer. Back out of the trailer.
You all go first.
Go. Go. I got you. Go. Mock, you're injured. Go.
Officer Mock there was struck by some shrapnel from one of the bullets of the bad guy or from some flying debris. Wasn't badly hurt. Our bad guy was filled in very thoroughly. SWAT was called in. They eventually found him, assuming the under the bed storage temperature challenge. He did not make it out of this one. The woman knew full well, who gave them permission to search, that he was in there and he was armed with a gun. She knew that full well when she gave them permission to go in there. She has been charged for that. Hey, Mike, you know the difference between Oklahoma City and Albuquerque?
Oh boy. No, I don't.
They both have meth, just Oklahoma City has tigers.
Ooh.
Which is kind of cool. Dated pop culture reference. Mike, I'm going to try hard to be kind here, but this clearing is kind of a goat rodeo, and we just got to point out all the ways that we can do better here.
Yeah, a couple things, John, on that. I was law enforcement in one form or fashion for 30 years-ish and did a lot of clearance training, did a lot of kill house training, and I don't recall ever doing any kind of training, sim fire, or just clearing training inside of like a single wide or a travel trailer or even a double wide. The hallways in trailer homes and in single wides and double wides are narrower. Things are kind of wonky. So if you haven't trained in that environment with your agency, especially if you live somewhere where there's a lot of trailer parks and there's, a lot of possibility you'll end up having to clear a trailer home, it would behoove you to find one to go do some training in maybe once every few years, just to get that, knock the rust off of that technique, because they're laid out a lot differently than single family homes or obviously commercial or retail places. So it's something worth thinking about.
Yeah, and for the officer here who's badge cammed that we're watching, put the handheld light away, for goodness sakes. You got a light on your pistol, train with that light on your pistol. This is why you have a light on your pistol, is because you chase goblins down dark holes. And this is why you've got it. Please, get your two hands on the gun. You need that. And you've got a cornucopia of places here where this bad guy can wait and can hide. So you need to clear each one and do so systematically and think through who's one, who's two, who's three. How are you going to clear this together? Because our female officer here is going to go around and look down into the bedroom, but look at all this space they haven't cleared, all the hidey holes that he could be in the living room and in the kitchen and in the dining room, that she's going to look around a little bit. Well, I don't know about that. So she is going to make a choice to go over here, but not all the stuff behind her, she has turned her back on. So the other two she just needs to hold long here while they go clear all the little hidey holes out of what's behind them before they go into a new unknown area.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the sense of urgency here is, but just remember, if you're playing hide and seek with guns, I think they had an idea this guy might be armed. Obviously, he was armed, but if you even remotely suspect that someone is armed during a situation like this, your gun should be out. I think reminding yourself that it's not a race, right? The important thing is to do this methodically. This is not a dynamic entry, right? We're doing this methodically, slow, methodically, check everything you can check, and make sure you're communicating with your partners, because I didn't seem to see a lot of communication here between her and the other officer holding the less lethal shotgun. So, if you're watching this in training, just remember, it's not a race. There's no rush, right? We can be here all day if we need to do this safely. Take your time and make sure you're not exposing your back or any part of you, for that matter, to danger unnecessarily, which he's kind of doing here I know the other officer's looking in that direction, but if someone were to pop out from behind something back there with a firearm, he'd have a hard time warning her in time for her to do anything. Where is she even going to go if there is a threat? So something to think about.
And then again, so we haven't cleared anything behind us. He could very well have been under the kitchen cabinets or any of those things. So before we know any of that, now she's walking into the bedroom, and I just want to think about all the hidey holes in here. There's that cabinet to the left. There's the one to the left of the bed that's a long, tall cabinet. There's the bathroom that she's going to walk right by and not clear. So to get to the spot where eventually she's going to find the bad guy, okay, fine. But like you said, Mike, I think it's so important to realize we're not in any rush here. There's no dynamics to this. Take our time, clear each one, slow our roll, keep our heart rate down. And because we're looking for somebody who's armed, do so very methodically. But that takes a good bit of training, and officers should get that training. Most private citizens don't, unless it's Tactical Fantasy Band Camp. That's where I got it. But doing that slowly can save people getting shot.
Yeah, and I don't know Oklahoma's, the state of Oklahoma's standards as far as training, what they're required to do, what they're not required to do. We had a video not long ago, John, where I commented that I don't think it was the church. They're clearing the church with the lady who had the hammer, I think it was. And I don't know what the training standards are, but if these officers were never trained on building clearing, it's not like it's not an innate skill, something you can just figure out on your own out in the wild. You need to be trained in it. So they may not have gotten that training. I don't know. But I definitely worried about stuff like what's in the bag up there. That can wait. All that stuff can wait. We saw those other officers get sidetracked with something other than finding the suspect. Remember, keep your eye on the ball when you're clearing a place like this with a possibly armed suspect. Don't worry about, there's meth in a baggie or there's some evidence of some other crime or whatever. Don't worry about that. Put it out of your mind and focus 100% of your attention on searching methodically and finding your bad guy in the safest way possible.
And I also think this could be maybe a little complacency, because obviously she's now turned her back on a guy with a gun. She doesn't know he's under the bed, but he is. And so she's turned her back on the guy with a gun. Our officer here who is looking in the bathroom, she's not in a position to help him at all. And so I think that could be complacency, that they don't think they're going to find anything here. The lady has told him that he's gone. So we're probably just checking through to make sure that's the case. But this is why we say when you get into something like this, whether it's a traffic stop or a building clearing, treat every evolution, every time you do that, as a training evolution, and that way you don't get surprised like they did here.
If I had a nickel, John, for every time someone told me, no, Junior's not here, I haven't seen him, blah, 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 probably fully 50% of the time that I was told that and then given consent to enter a place to look for said individual, that person is in fact there. So if someone tells you so-and-so is not here and they let you search, you should always just operate under the assumption the person is there, they're armed, and they want to kill you, right? And that way you can't possibly go wrong. Because if I had a nickel if I could have a nickel for every different place I found someone, to include a washer dryer inside of one of those, doing a Jean-Claude Van Damme inside of a walk-in closet where they were holding the walls and 6 feet above me, it's nuts. They could be almost anywhere. So operate under the assumption the person is there until you know otherwise.
And part of that is having somebody holding on unknown space, having somebody with a firearm out. This maybe could possibly be an armed guy. It turns out it is an armed guy. She has both hands empty here. So, okay, maybe she's the one who's going to lift up the bed, but now the other officer that's here, he's dangling a less lethal shotgun. He's got his gun in his left hand. I don't think he's left-handed, so that he can lift with his right hand. This is a mess. And we've got the officer with the rifle who's completely out of the fight because we're in between him and where the threat can be. Set this up. Okay, how are we going to lift this up? All right, I've got it held long. If somebody's in there, I got him covered. And then get to the side and get it lifted up. There's just no plan here, because there's no plan, there's no response.
Yeah, I think some of that might be a little reticence on their part to communicate verbally, because they think, well, if he is under there, right, and we're talking about what we're about to do, who's going to have the jump on us? That very well may be true, but if they had communicated and had discussed ahead of time what they were going to do and how they were going to do it, and just, okay, I'm going to have the female officer left hand on this corner of it, right hand on my gun. Let's get the guy with the rifle in here to draw down on this thing. Other officer grabs the other corner, and we have at least 2 barrels pointed in the direction of where the bad guy might be. And if you'd asked me when this whole thing started, when John sent me the video, I'm watching it. The minute they walked in there and turned right and I saw that bed, I said, I guarantee you that guy's under the bed. It's the most obvious spot for him to be. So part of that is experience. Part of that is spidey senses, but a little communication here prior to lifting up the bed might have gone a long way. It might have prevented a lot of the stuff that happened subsequently.
So communicate. Officers, big point here. Communicate. Get that training on building clearing. Take your time, slow your roll, do your thorough job, and have, if our officer with the rifle is trained on this guy, when that gun comes up, this dude gets filled in. He gets porcupined, and we never get shots off towards the officers. Okay, but that's not going to be the case here, because he brings the gun up, they get some shots towards him, and I'm just going to take a minute here. Again, somebody showed up with a rifle. Yay! I love the fact that somebody is there with a rifle for potentially clearing a structure with an armed person. Heck yes, I'd much rather have my rifle, but only if the rifle is going to be in the fight.
Yeah, agreed. And I really, really prefer to see an SBR in a situation like this. Especially, I mentioned before that, trailers are wonky. The hallways tend to be narrower. The doorways tend to be narrower than in a single family home or an apartment or whatever. So a short barreled rifle really is a huge advantage to getting around corners and doing those sorts of things with a long gun, because absolutely the long gun, in my opinion, I could be wrong, the long gun should have been trained on that bed, that storage space, before they ever opened it. And as John said, it might have ended very, very differently. With that said, I don't, I can't see what she's seeing. I can't see if the guns, if this M4, M6, or excuse me, AR, whatever it is aimed at our officer, but it looks like it could be. So just something to think about.
Yeah, and yes, for police officer work, a short-barreled rifle, really, really good thing to have, because your mission involves clearing structures. Unlike private citizens, we don't do that kind of stuff. Oh boy, our female officer here, I get it. She's spooked, guy's got a gun, she wants to get out of there, she gets behind what she thinks is cover. The problem here, Mike, that cover is the backstop of the officer with the rifle.
Yeah, I saw this too, John. We talked about this in our pre-brief. Look, I get it. You've been shot at or thought you've been shot at. You've just shot at someone probably for the first time in your whole life, in your whole career. There's a lot going on, and you can have a little bit of cognitive overload. That's fine. That might lead you to make a bad decision, like where you end up running off to, scurrying off to avoid being shot. Yeah, she ended up, I don't know what's behind this tarp or whatever. Maybe it's a grill. I have no idea. But you've got to keep your head on straight enough to know that the place to which you're escaping to safety is in fact safety, and not the backstop of a gunfight. Because unless there's a steel Traeger grill under that tarp, nothing in the wall of that travel trailer, it's like a hot knife through butter. Nothing in that wall is going to stop a 223 round or a pistol round for that matter. They're paper thin. So something to think about. Also, when clearing, bear in mind somebody can shoot you through a wall very easily in one of these things. So stay frosty.
And props to her for coming back. Props to her for regaining her composure and getting back in the fight. That said, okay, she heard a shot break, but where is she shooting at right now? It seems to me that she is overstimulated and she is over aroused, right? So when we talk about arousal levels, that color, Colonel Cooper color code of awareness: white, yellow, orange, red, gray, black, right? And she's up in that gray area where, being over aroused, she's just lighting off rounds to say, I'm scared and I want it to stop in that direction. You got to be better than this. You got to, this is why I think slowing your roll keeps your heart rate down and lets you make good decisions in the moment.
Yeah, I concur. And again, I don't, we're trying not to pile on these officers. This is a very traumatic incident, right? And there's a lot going on. Cognitive overload is in fact a thing. But first of all, to what you said initially, kudos to her for getting back in there and getting back in the fight. That's actually absolutely critical. We've seen videos. The worst of one is the one at a church where there's all these off-duty uniformed officers and there's shooting going on and no one's doing anything. Everyone's sort of frozen. So kudos to her for getting back in the fight. Absolutely 100%.
And all right, Sergeant Rogers, he's getting up and in the fight. Cool. What are we doing, Sarge? If you've got the rifle, I think that part of that is, first of all, ick on the iron sights on that rifle. Goodness sakes, what is it, 1996? But secondly, and more importantly, when you're on the long gun, you have to be assertive about your place in the stack here in order to protect your partners.
Yeah, if you're on the rifle, you're the only rifle, especially. You're the pointy tip of the spear, right? You're the person that should be going point in most situations because you've got a much more efficient weapon system. You're able to make longer distance shots. You're able to put bigger, more effective rounds than a pistol, for example. So yeah, I would have, as I said before, I would have liked to have initially seen this guy right in the middle of that bed frame when they lifted it up from either side with a rifle aimed directly in it. And again, that might also mean waiting for another unit to get there, to have one more person to cover off on all this unsecured area that's to this sergeant's left right here, as we talked about before. And yeah, people can be hiding in the cabinets. Yeah, they can be hiding in all sorts of crazy places. So you can't take for granted that there's not anyone else over there.
Yeah, so again, he wasn't in the middle of the fight, and so I don't blame him for that. Although he's the sergeant, okay, buddies, everybody got to chill out a little bit. So I know we gave the female officer a bit of a hard time, but I don't think the males are doing a whole lot better than she is, quite frankly. I mean, they didn't get in position really well. They didn't get themselves to the right spot. Now we're all trained on the door, and of course, why does Officer Mock end up taking a shot here, Mike? He ends up getting shot because he's standing right in the middle of the doorway. Now, why is he standing in the middle of the doorway? Because the other two officers are at the edges of the doorway, so he feels like he's got to go find himself some space. The worst place to be is framed in a doorway, because that's where the bad guy is going to shoot. You've got to recognize, when we talk about what do I need to win, what's important now, and you've got to do that important thing now, even if that is, I'm going to get behind somebody else because I'm going to get shot otherwise.
Look, I get it, right? You don't want to seem like the person who's a scaredy cat, like they're hiding behind their partner or whatever. But there's no shame in that. In this situation, the only sensible place for him to be would be behind the sergeant or behind this female officer. You can get a gun up next to her, I guess, if you need to, but understand they should have this well covered at this point. And standing in that position is a terrible idea. Now, I don't know if this officer didn't sense that there was danger there or whatever, but you have to know, as John said, standing framed in a doorway, there's a reason the police stand off to the side after they knock on a door, right? Because they're trying to get shot through the door. You have to understand and get a sense for when you're in a dangerous position and act on it. He didn't. Thank God he wasn't more seriously hurt, because he could have been shot pretty badly.
Yeah, and listen, our sergeant here, he got on the rifle and got after this guy a few. And then he pulls away and our female officer steps in and she lights a shot off in there. Quite frankly, let the rifle eat, right? Let that guy with the rifle do his job. Those rifle rounds are going to do so much more than your pistol rounds are going to do. And frankly, him having actually just put a round on an officer, I don't know why his magazine has not emptied itself into that bed.
Yeah, look, we're not advocating firing wildly, right, or overkill, but you know where this guy is. He hasn't gone anywhere. He hasn't escaped through the floor of this trailer, right? He's right center, just to the left of the center of that thing, and you can put effective rounds right through whatever that material is with that rifle. That is what I would have recommended. Another option, by the way, after the first time through, everybody can bug out of that place, right? Just get the heck out and move out to an outer position behind some cover and cover off on this place. All you need is 3 officers is more than enough to do that effectively. Start getting help on the way. Start getting SWAT on the way. That's another option. They didn't have to go back in unless they felt like they were rescuing one of these officers.
I want to just take a moment here. We're getting close to the end of this one, and I don't want to beat a dead horse too much, but we're now on Officer Mock's body camera, all right? And I want you to see in the bottom right here that their mistake in how they covered this, not having somebody there and not being covered down on this bed, the only reason that Officer Mock didn't take a round in the side of his vest is because this guy was unprepared to do that. Mentally, emotionally, or physically, I don't know. But he's got a gun up and pointed right at him in this case. And whether he shot him in the pelvis or through the side plates, which, is he wearing side plates on his armor? I don't know. It was really luck that an officer didn't die in this one, Mike.
Look, human performance, right, is a thing. So it takes the brain, even if you're in the middle of this and you're amped up and your adrenaline's rushing and you know you're potentially facing someone with a gun. As soon as that thing pops up, it's going to take your brain a moment to orient itself to the fact that the person is holding a firearm. The firearm is small, it's dark colored, it doesn't stand out. So it takes your brain a second to get used to that, which is why I would have preferred if each one of these officers would have been on a corner with that officer with the rifle aimed directly into this void that we're going to open up. Because I'm telling you, as I said before, when I watched the video, I was 99% sure that's where they were going to find the guy. And that's in fact where he was. So a little preparation, a little more communication, discussing how we're going to go about this issue of tackling this bed and what's underneath it. If they'd have done that a little bit more, maybe they could have had a little better plan set up in order to get the maximum amount of safety they could possibly get in a bad position.
Yeah, and listen, this wasn't a great one, guys. They ended up being okay. Everybody ended up being all right. All right, success is a hell of a deodorant, but this was a tough one. Let's do better to cover our ass.